Hello everyone, welcome to SciFocus TV by Patrika. I am Virender Singh, host for today's session. And today we have Oyahida from IISc, who will tell us about Sun Pharma Awards. She recently got Sun Pharma Award for her project, which she applied for last year. So welcome Oyahida on our show.
Thanks, Virender, for introducing me.
Before we start, can you briefly tell us about yourself?
Yeah, so actually, I am an integrated PhD student. I joined IISc in 2018. So, integrated PhD is basically integration of master's and PhD. So, I did my bachelor's from Presidency University, Kolkata. I passed out in 2018. And after that, I joined IISc as integrated PhD. When I joined, my initial days of research was on influenza virus. But then soon COVID hit, and then my project took a different turn. I started working on SARS-CoV-2. And then, so I worked on this. I worked on a couple of projects, some basic research, some translational research, and I could finish my project within 4.5 years. And next week I'll be giving my defense. So yeah, I think I'm done with my PhD. Other than my work, in my free time, I enjoy reading, I enjoy traveling, trekking. Yeah, that's all.
That's good to know, and that's amazing that you have took COVID as another opportunity to explore a completely different field of work. And good that you finished your project in 4.5 years. That's commendable. So, can you tell us more about Sun Pharma Award? How you get to know about this award, and what was the application process?
Yeah, so actually, not one, two of our senior, one in 2022, Otis Roy Chaudhary, he is also from IISc, he got in biomedical science. And then last year, Avik Chattopadhyay or Chakrabarti, he's also one of our senior from the same department. He got in pharmaceutical division. So I got to know that, okay, there is some award called Sun Pharma Award that exists, and they award students on in the biomedical category and pharmaceutical category. So I knew that this award existed and I planned to apply. But then when the application opened, that I got to know from our, so there is a WhatsApp group in IISc. There, the admin, she shares about the upcoming awards and conferences. So from there, I got to know that, okay, the application process has started. And then I applied, and the application process is actually quite long. So first, in the first step, I have to give the name of a nominator who will be nominating. Okay, this is the student I'm nominating for this pharmaceutical or in the biomedical division, and I will have to write about the a line that what is the broad area of my research. I'll give the basic details about my institute, about the nominated. And once I do the first stage of application, then I receive my user ID and password. And with that, I log in the Sun Pharma actual website. There, I have to give lots of details. One was the research details. What is the broad details area of my research? Yeah, that includes introduction, material method, results, conclusion, what would be the future perspective, all this. So I had a very long 44 pages of the research details. Along with that, I had to give um, a justification of the nomination, like that is given by the nominator, which like my PI itself is nominated in my case. And then I had to give uh, the papers that I have published before. What is the citation summary? If I have any, if I have done any animal work, then the clearance of animal ethics. Then what else? Then voluntary declaration and biodata and some more details about the process. So there were about 7 to 8 document that I had to upload. So with that, the application process completed. So yeah, it was a bit long.
Thanks for going through all the steps. I think this will be very helpful for
Thank
someone,
you.
yeah, who is looking to apply in future. As you mentioned that you are working on different projects. So, which project was the basis for applying for Sun Pharma Award?
Yeah. So, actually, I have worked on three different aspects of the COVID. One was developing antivirals against the SARS-CoV-2. Another was identifying prognostic marker. Prognostic marker is nothing but the disease severity marker that can differentiate between an asymptomatic individual and an individual which is showing symptom also. So, what is the level of the severity of the disease? So, I wanted to identify the severity marker of the SARS-CoV-2 infection, and another was identifying SARS-CoV-2 proteins which is antagonizing our innate immune machinery. So innate immune machinery is the first line of host defense mechanism that that results in the interferon production. Like, we are very much aware that interferons are there that helps in combating SARS-CoV-2 infection and all. So my idea was to identify SARS-CoV-2 protein, which is antagonizing our innate immune machinery. So if I give you more details about the project, the first one is developing antiviral. So the idea is, first I want to identify the host factors which are consistently upregulated at the upper respiratory tract. So since COVID is a respiratory pathogen, it will first infect the upper respiratory tract, and then it produces interferon and other it produces interferon that in turn, just one second,
Yeah, sure.
waiting. Yeah. So upper respiratory tract cells, they produces interferon. That in turn recruits other immune effector cells. They produce cytokine and chemokine, and that helps in clearing out of the disease. So, in what direction the disease is headed, that could be understood by looking at the host factor, which is upregulated here. So my idea was to identify this upregulated host factor and check whether I can find any inhibitor of those upregulated host factor, because they could be important for virus replication and so on, and other process of the virus disease progression and everything. So we identified one of the host factors which are consistently upregulated in the upper respiratory tract. And after that, we saw, okay, thyrodoxine is the protein, and we saw that thyrodoxine has an FDA approved inhibitor. So we tested this FDA approved inhibitor called auranofin, and we saw that it is inhibiting SARS-CoV-2 infection. And then later on, so that drug is called auranofin. Later on, we have checked whether we can use auranofin in combination with remdesivir, which is like very well known drug, and we have seen that it was widely used for the COVID treatment. So we have identified the antiviral called auranofin. We have tested it again with in combination with remdesivir, and the next one was to identify the disease severity marker. So there also we saw that so we identified lots of host factor which are consistently upregulated, and then we validated. So we shortlisted a number of genes, like around 14 genes we have shortlisted, and then we took COVID-19 patient sample from our IISc diagnostic facility, and then we validated the gene expression profile. From there, we further shortlisted gene which can differentiate between the asymptomatic and the symptomatic individual. That is, they are the prognostic marker or the disease severity marker. From that, we have identified the disease severity marker, and right now we are in the process of generating RT-PCR kit, which will serve as both diagnostic as well as prognostic kit. And the third part is to identify SARS-CoV-2 protein, which is antagonizing our innate immune machinery. And in that context, we have done lots of screening and other experiments. And that brought us to the culmination of the project, that ORF6, which is a very small protein of SARS-CoV-2 that suppress or inhibits our interferon production. So the greater goal of that project would be to remove ORF6 and try to generate an attenuated vaccine. So all these things will require further, more experiments to validate, but that's the gist of right now.
I think you already have done a lot during this short
Okay, thanks.
and going from basic science to applied and even showing how this could be like even further taken to market, it's like very commendable. So going forward, so as we know that you applied for this award and there must be steps from application to final award. Can you tell us, were there any intermediate interviews or the final interview and how you prepared for it?
Yeah, so actually, it's the Sun Pharma Award. It is a two-step process. Like first, I told you there are two steps in the application itself, and once they receive the application, they go through all the research details, the publication profile, citation summary, and everything. And from there, they shortlist five candidates for the. So I applied for pharmaceutical category. So they have shortlisted five candidates for the next round of interview. Then I was called for the interview in Sun Pharma, head office in Gurgaon, Delhi. And then I was interviewed by, I think it was a panel of 8 or 10 people. There were lots of doctors with different background and very strong expertise in the field and everything. So they took the next round of interview. It was 18 minutes presentation and 12 minutes question answer. So even though I had I have done the work and I have already presented it before, but showing everything in the 18 minutes, that was the biggest challenge. So I had to cut down my work, as in what to show, to give them the message also, at the same time not to bore them with all the data. So I had to pick and choose my data to show the final story also, and to show them the data also. So that was kind of a challenge. But then there was this question answer session, 12 minutes. That was very insightful and helpful. Like they were asking questions to check what is my basis of knowledge. It's not only what I'm presenting in the 18 minutes, but they will ask question to know what further more work can be done in that field, and what is the basis or the depth of my knowledge in my work. And yeah, these things were there. They were actually challenging, but at the same time I enjoyed it. So I would say in terms of challenge, the only challenge was to show my work, my story in 18 minutes. Yeah, that's all.
Thanks a lot for sharing the insights. And I think it's always problem with all of scientists that if it comes to narrow down or like bring it in short duration, so we have to like cut on
Yeah.
many things which we don't want
Yes.
to cut. But yeah, I think this is a
Mhm.
useful exercise when going forward,
Yeah.
we have to tell the story to others. So,
Yeah.
so coming to the last part, so based on your experience, what advice you will give to people who will be applying for this award next year?
Yeah, so I would say this whole application process is a very healthy exercise. So, as I told you, I wrote a 44-page research details. So, since I was already writing my thesis, it wasn't a big deal for me. But suppose if I were in my third year or fourth year of my PhD, so if I go through the writing the research details and everything, that itself is a healthy exercise. It's good to, go through your projects that you are working on, and if you are writing in a concise manner, you get to see the places or the loopholes that is still remaining. So in that way, writing itself is a good exercise. Other than that, if you're going to the next stage, then you get to see the other cutting edge work that is going on. Other people, for me, both pharmaceutical and biomedical, both of the interviewed held together. So I got to see pharmaceutical as well as in biomedical, like they are working on very very cool stuff. So you get to see all this cutting edge and top notch work that is going on right now in the country, and my fellow colleagues are working on such cool projects that I get to see. At the same time, I got to interact with all the peers. They are kind of in the top position in the country, and their insightful questions and everything. It was fun. It was very healthy exercise. So my advice would be to be curious, to open to suggestion, have open mind, and just be confident. Just apply for it. At the max, you will not get it, but the whole process is very enjoyable. So I'll just say go for it. It's good to apply.
Thanks a lot for sharing your insights and thoughts. And I'm sure that people listening to this will get benefit out of your experience, and definitely they'll be motivated to apply for this award next year. Again, best wishes for your next steps and for thesis defense. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, sir. Thanks a lot. Thanks for interviewing me.